Hi, welcome back to the Dylan Rounds case. Welcome if you're currently here in the live chat. I appreciate it. Today we've got a bit of a hybrid video. I think we're going to take a brief look at the comment section of the last video, as there are some key comments to read out, and one of them which suggest they were the original searcher to come across the chop shop. More about that soon. We're also going to be taking a look at Montello statistics, population, and I guess the economy, whether it's true, outdated, false. We might as well cover it today because with the odd Montello locals watching these videos, they might be able to provide a better insight. They may be able to clear up misinformation, which is important because Montello in the past wasn't really known. Dylan Round's case, it kind of put more on the map, more awareness about it, but maybe not all for the right reasons. As some of you will remember previously, which is probably a couple of months ago, I said about how if videos can be covered alongside Dylan Rounds, which covers Montello itself and tries clearing up any misinformation, any dodginess about the place, then that will be done so as well. Okay, there's no harm in doing that. Also today, one of the main topics we are looking at today, which we'll look at later in this video, is to do with the dirt mound, an item found nearby, as well as comparing it to the store Dylan Rounds visited the 24th, which was Tuesday, May 2022. I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison. So there's a range of stuff to look at today. I'm definitely going to make sure that the title is appropriate, so it includes each topic we're looking at, so people can find it fairly straightforward. Okay, feel free to share your thoughts, opinions, and reactions in the chat as we do go along, the live chat box, which is on the right hand side, and yeah, just see what you think. If you haven't already, make sure to check out my previous video I uploaded. I'll provide a link down below in the pinned comment section. Was interesting considering the amount of people watching, because of course with the case dragging on, you could say some people will lose interest. That's normal, that's understandable, but there was a fair few people watching last night and I wasn't expecting that, so that's good. A fair few people in the background, which is okay. Little to none resistance. Just briefly mention this observation, bit of an interesting finding. Is that when I said in the past, you might get 30 to 40 people watching, which is fairly good. If it goes over that line, about 50, 60, there's extra 10 people, that's where resistance starts showing. Not that it's the same people each time, it's just certain combinations and timing, wrong place, wrong time, friction between different people. You know what I said previously. And yet a fair few people were watching last night and you didn't seem to have that issue. There was about 51 people watching at some point, and yet people were on good behaviour. So that's all good, under control, simple as. And obviously there was discussions still continuing last night about the case, weather, etc., right? So that's what we want to do today. And yeah, I think we'll get into the comments first of all. Might as well let people join in, give them time so they're not missing out too much, because I know Weedleby, always turning up late. I know it's not just you, there'll be a few other people in between. I know Gorilla Jack did leave a comment at one point. I just want to highlight this briefly, okay, because I'm not quite sure why it happens. Gorilla Jack sometimes leaves comments, and yet I can't like his comments, and I can't respond to his comments. Like, I can type in a reply, and then when I press send, it does nothing. And when I like the comment, it doesn't actually like, it just like denies it. But I've seen Joseph able to respond to Gorilla Jack, so I don't know what's going on there. Does anyone else know about that? Got nothing to do with being blocked or anything like that, because we can see each other's comments and so can everyone else. But I just can't seem to respond back to him, which is weird. I don't know what's going on there. And as well, when it comes to mentioning people, tagging people, where you click the @ symbol and then enter someone's username in from YouTube or someone's tag handle from YouTube, like an abbreviation of the name, username. It'll come up with the people's names. But at the moment, it's Stony. When I type her name in, if I'm mentioning her, it doesn't seem to pick up or register, which is a bit odd. When it came to Kaylee, when I was tagging her previous, it worked at first, but then it didn't. Her name didn't show up anymore. And then shortly afterwards, it popped back up again. So I don't know what's going on there with YouTube, but once again, documenting it, yet more dodgy things with YouTube. You know, not much can be done at the moment. So just wanted to highlight that before we move on. And yeah, let's look at the comments now and see what interesting responses are present. Let's begin from the bottom and work our way up. First comment, and this was even before the video was live, by Not For You. They did not come into Montello on the 29th. People need to stop spreading misinformation. This is getting out of hand. First of all, it's not spreading misinformation, it's discussing and questioning the validity and reliability of it. Did it truly happen, yes or no? And if it did happen, what could it have implicated? What could it have resulted in? And if it didn't happen, then why is it being talked about? You know, we already went through that in a video. And once again, it was a decent reception, end of the day. But what I will say is, the wording of this is getting out of hand. This, what, all of a sudden? No, it's not just suddenly getting out of hand. It's been out of hand since day one. So it hasn't really got any worse. It's just trying to tame it, right? And extract each individual DNA strand, not literally, of events to try and understand it, okay? Just like with Assassin's Creed, the video game, you go through these synchronicities, these synchronization points and check marks throughout time history. Each moment, each event, you complete each section as you move along. It's just what you do. But yeah, and as well, like, I'm just trying to understand this. Still kind of unsure about this account, who's who. But it's from what Kurt has said, right? And they're saying, Kurt never said that. That never happened. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But just understand one thing. If Kurt is known for switching and changing with what he says, okay, the fanboys or fangirls might defend him, but then the other people who are a little bit more balanced, who have watched all the different videos and have noticed 1 minute he says this, next minute he says that. Maybe at one point Kurt did mention about the 29th and such was down here in the bar. And then maybe he changed his story down the line. You can't help that, right? That's what that person's saying, yeah. Anyway, Indiana says, Don Hately reminds me of some kind of retired Hell's Angel knitting whilst sipping tea down at the local bikers club. But yeah, you probably already know Indiana, but from like what most people have said and photos shared about, which I mainly saw on Zavgirl's channel in the past, that don't know about Hell's Angels, but he was part of like a motorcycle group, biker. Can you call it biker gang, or is that the wrong wording? But yeah, I mean, he's got the beard. He kind of looks the part in a way. And there was other talks in the past as well. I think people were trying to add theories or conspiracies, like there's a biker gang group out there to hunt people down at one point, you know. But just one of those things, right? Does he knit? I don't know. Maybe. You'll have to see how many woolly jumpers he's got in his wardrobe. What's this? Joseph, the characters of all three, Don Hately, Kurt, and Bivins, is lacking in every way. They should be called out in a massive way for not being better men. So that's whether that's to do with being directly responsible in the Dylan Brown's disappearance or just not being as, what do you call it, proactive in helping or clearing their own names. Tom Evans, does anybody have any information on Chris Ellison? Never heard of that person. Weezer says he lived about a mile out of Montello to the northwest. Just a creepy guy, more of a stalker type. Okay. Tara says another creeper name popping up again. Damn, is the desert littered with freaks or fucking what? And it's one of those things as well where if you're in an area where you can't get arrested as much, there's not as many punishments, then maybe more people will gather there and collect, and then it becomes like a paradise of dodginess. Okay. About a mile out of Montello, just a creepy guy, more of a stalker. The only question I have, this guy called Chris Allison, where did the name originate from to begin with? Who was the first person to talk about that guy's name? What channel, what person, and why? Was it based on a theory, an idea, a rumour, an actual event? You know, what are you trying to assume? What, creepy stalker going after Dylan? I don't know. You just let me know your thoughts, okay? Cleo, great points, worth watching. Thank you. Shout out to Cleo the Playful Witch. Good person. Oh, look who we have here. Look who's commented. It's just Robbie. He's decided to show up now. 13 hours ago, comment posted, brackets edited. Okay. So if you don't know who It's Just Robbie is a guy from Jim Terry's channel. He's been a moderator at some point, and he's also appeared on the call-in panels, etc. Okay? He's got a bit of a blonde hair quiff hairstyle going on. He's got a bit of a Valley Girl bitchy voice. He also has a little dog as well, but I don't know which one does the whining more. I guess we'll have to decide. Do we need to confirm it's him? I guess we can. There you go. Has he commented on previous videos? Looks like it. Easy90 has at least 3 to 4 YouTube channels and thinks he's a very smart LDS UK lad. Dylan, what? And he is like most other Brits. He's a bit Mormon though. They should be bothered with their own Mormon nonsense. Right, so it looks like It's Just Robbie has been around before on my channel. Okay, not complaining too much. There you go. There's Robbie. But there you go, live. You see his little videos. I think he's like a delivery driver or something. There you go, he's got little emojis going on. Oh my God, that hairstyle. To be honest, it looks like he's had a bit of sunburn. He's been left out too long. It looks like a crab or a lobster. Oh, has he done a bit of gaming as well? Watch out, Inky. Okay. Yeah. And when was the account created? Oh, he's on Twitch, I see. There we go. September 2011. Okay. Just wanted to, give a backstory so you know this is the real person. Let's see what he's got to say. And I guess we might as well do it in his tone of voice by Robbie. Guys, echo and immature knowledge of American places that just went over. Having never been there, leave me yawning my ass off. Jim Terry Tuesday. Be there or be a loser like this idiot. Okay, you call me a loser idiot, and yet you're associating yourself with my channel by leaving a comment here as well as previous ones in the past. So you're a bit of a prat, to be honest. And I'm not talking about your hairstyle, okay? So, it's interesting though how, a range of different characters here and there do come on over and watch. Most likely he was one of those in the background, which is all fine, okay? Because there'll be numerous reasons to why people watch in the background. Some for their own safety, others because they don't have much to say, which is understandable. Some because they may feel too ashamed to publicly associate themselves with maybe my channel because they feel like they may be betraying someone else and they may get attacked for it. You never know. There are many stipulations. There's many cross-conflict roadways and pathways, okay, in life. So there you go. Let's move on. We got It's Stony Bitches. Okay. Here we go. Looks like one of Stony Times. We'll just read what she's got to say. Just finished watching the premiere. Sorry, I've been sick. Now, the annoying part is people in chat that act like they have real proof and shit is set in stone because they saw it on some stream on YouTube. I am being blamed for saying in this chat that Kurt is guilty. I'm dead. None of us know anything. YouTube is full of shit, as are news articles. I proof of 3 articles that the boots were found in 3 different places in each article and found by Brenner in 2. And the 3rd article, boots, were found by search and rescue. So before you come into the chat like LE and have proof, nothing is believable. And there's no fucking way any of you people know anything. Only people who know are people involved in Dylan. Now, get out of here with hearsay. I'm one of the first ones to say shows like Sopranos give ideas to dispose of a body, no clues anywhere of Dylan, but plenty of chemicals and vats, I'm sure, on farm. Now, this is the thing. You get 2 types of people. One type where they will say a theory, an idea, a conspiracy as a fact, as an event, and they'll say it with confidence and certainty, and they're doing it on purpose to change the narrative. And then you get other people who are just giving a simple opinion, but just because of the way they type it up, it sounds like they're saying it as a fact, which they don't mean to, but they're just not thinking when they're typing or maybe talking, right? So yes, it can get messy. It can cause confusion. It is unfortunate. Can you stop it, prevent it? No. But if you can at least spread a little bit of awareness of language and using it appropriately, it can kind of iron things out. Like, I think it was like last night. I don't know if it was Badger. It might have been Badger. Yeah, I'm sure it was. And then there was a few other people that were, kind of in agreement. But Badger was talking about, Dylan put in some kind of tub with a certain type of acid, and it, decomposed him quick. There was no remains left. And she was just giving her opinion because she's a retired investigator or something, and the husband is a retired police guy. So, okay, interesting cases, mysteries, that's understandable. Use your own ideas, own experience to maybe understand what may have went on through what you've dealt with and cases you've experienced in the past. So it's based off experience, opinions, and then applying it all together. I get that. But just because Badger worded it a bit differently, some people were like, you seem so sure about it. How do you know? So just a bit of a misunderstanding here and there, which you'll see many times in the Dylan Rounds case. It won't be the last, okay? It will continue, but there you go. Anything else? Tara says, read Weezer's last live chat comment made me very sad. Dylan was shot. Heartbroken that poor boy was shot, but no blood splatter, no dogs hit blood or cloths, nothing. My God. Gun shit victims would be very obvious, very impossible to clean up. Okay, well, I know Joy Perry was present last night, but Tara, have you been using Joy Perry's speech to text or something? I couldn't quite understand that. What does Weezer say? I was referring to the other person that was found over by Wendover. Nothing has been said about him in the news at all. He lived on the backside of Pilot Mountain on the Utah side. I'd guess about 25 to 30 miles from Dylan's farm. He was closer to Wendover, but would have also used the Pilot Road. Okay, just a few little questions here, okay? This other person over by Wendover, when were they found? What date, what month, or at least what year, okay? Is it around Dylan's disappearance or not? And is there any other like little additional information along with it? Is he from Montello? Has he visited Montello? Do any of the locals know about this guy? Anything else? Okay, we've got a couple of comments by Ellen back to back. Let's see what she says. Ellen says, I worked at the Rainbow for 8 years. I retired right after the pandemic. Okay, interesting. She also says, Wendover is a border town. True. 2 different counties, 2 different states. Yeah, I did notice that. Like, in the past, at first, I didn't. But, you see the borderline that goes all the way down between, like, Montello, Nevada itself, and then Luton, Utah itself, right? And south of Dylan's farm, you got Wendover, as we've seen on the maps. I think you got West Wendover, which is on the Nevada side, and then the other Wendover, which is on the Utah side, right? So If there are two different counties, two different states, do they have different laws? Yes, no. One more stricter than the other? Like, wait, hold on. If you got Utah itself and it has the death penalty, and let's say Nevada didn't, I'm not saying it doesn't, I don't know, but I'm just saying if that was the case, then if you committed a really bad crime which could warrant death penalty if accepted in that state, and you did it, you know, in Wendover on the Utah side, you could get the death penalty. But if you commit the same crime in West Wendover, across the border, just across the border, then you won't get it. Seems a bit messy, that, but you know, it is what it is. But like, it being like a strip, the roadways, you know, back-to-back shops and facilities, buildings there. And as soon as you cross over that border, but you don't actually feel or sense it, because obviously you wouldn't. But I don't know, it just seems a bit weird when it's like divided down. Ellen, there are people that come to the Lucin Montello area for the first camp trip of the year. Many private barbecues in the area. Okay, Montello area. Now, with these camp trips of the year, these private barbecues, does it ever lead to like mass fires burning all the vegetation? Because in the UK, because there's a lot of tossers and twats that have barbecues, they end up burning down all of the vegetation and wildlife and fuck all that up at times because of UK people. So does it happen in Montello, Nevada? Yes, no? What's this one? Responding to Weezer, the fire chief said weird guy in van was taken out on a medical. Okay. I don't know if I mentioned it in the video last night, but I did talk about there was a white van on one of the images on Google Earth. I don't know if Ellen Weezer are talking about that white van or some own like story that's gone on. Okay, here we go. This is the interesting comment regarding the chop shop, okay? Ricky Hansen says the chop shop had a fence around it with no trespassing signs. The gate was down, but with guns in hand, we went in to look around. It was pretty scary. Nobody was around. There was a trailer nearby that somebody had lived in, but nobody for a few years. I kept wondering why nothing was said about the chop shop. Why haven't the cops investigated it? I mean, it's true. Fair point, because, you know, if Brenner's burnt down trailer across the border in a completely different state could be investigated by police, then why can't the chop shop within Utah be checked as well? Because it's not that far from Dylan's farm. It's only like about 7-8 miles. And yet from Dylan's farm to Brenner's burnt down trailer, it's probably over like 20 miles in distance. So why's that? You know what I'm saying? It just seems a bit silly. Now, I've seen Ricky in the past on my channel popping in with comments. Don't really know who he is. But, you know, if it's true what he says, that is interesting. I have heard previously, and I think it was by a different comment, it might have been by Ty as well, talking about the fences, about the gate and stuff. So it kind of like reinforces it, right? With different people in consensus with the same descriptions, it falls in line with one another. So that's good. And no trespassing sign, I guess that's to be expected. So basically it was abandoned. I wonder if it's still abandoned now. Or could it have been when you went there, they were out elsewhere doing stuff, possibly? So, Ricky Hansen, are you the searchers Weezer was talking about recently when you went out there? Have you been the only searchers, Ricky, to have gone out there near the chop shop? Or do you know of anyone else who's been out there? Have you heard any more stories on it? Let me know your thoughts, okay? Whether it be in the live chat or the comment section. So that's interesting. Oh, Stoney, here we go again. Sounds like a lot of creepers around. Maybe people don't know anything because one of the weirdos that are running around there did something. I thought New York was crazy. Montello got us beat, for fuck's sake. Don't worry, Stoney. I'm sure you can claim back the title of creepiest place. Just put your glasses on upside down, okay? I'm sure that'll be enough. And, if that doesn't do it, I'm sure to push you over in first place of creepiest place, New York, just get Bella V to wake up and go right outside without even putting makeup on. I'm sure that will clearly fix it. Any more comments here? Okay, let's just see what Tom says. I've heard from 2 different sources that Bibbins was with Jim and Don when they were looking for Dylan. Can someone tell me if he was with them? You mentioned more. Bivens is one person that was interviewed by Law. You've got 2 guys, haven't you? You've got Bivens and Bibbins. 2 different people, right? I'm just trying to remember because I'm sure on Quinton's timeline that's how it was worded. It's more important to note that this was closely tied to Kurt, Don and Brenner. That's important, more so in a small town, and we know a lot about the background and personal information of all 3 of them. I hope the weather looks better for you today. Okay. Why Bibbins isn't talked about more than it has been. The police interviewed him but didn't bother to question individuals with good information. At this point, it's just important to remember FBI have all the evidence to know where people were and what they were doing. The questions you're asking are very good, and I think it's really interesting to know. Right. Okay. I blame Don and Kurt almost as much as Brenner because Dylan wasn't supported by them enough. Brenner would have never thought it was okay to not support Dylan or act against him in any way. He's 20 years old and they should have been better men in every way. That's a message I believe needs to be more clear. If Kurt was really a friend of Dylan's, he would have made sure Brenner did everything he could to help Dylan. That's why it matters that the characters are people we surround ourselves with. I think they're all to blame and have responsibility because Dylan was 20 years old and they should have respected him. Okay. There we go. So that's it for the comments there, just to catch up on. I think now we can move on. So now what we're going to do is move on to 2 different articles, one to do with population and the other one to do with economy of Montello. I think it's on, is it on Forbes or New York Times? I can't remember the type of website, but you'll be able to read it or something, or I can give context behind it afterwards. Just want to read them out, just get maybe a better understanding of the place or an alternative understanding of it. It's not as outdated as a previous article we've looked at in the past, okay? That one was really shit. Do you remember that? Where it gave those bar charts and it gave like the crime, but it was back in 2015 and it was like, well, what about now? It was shit, to be honest, but at least we cleared it, covered it, highlighted it. So I guess we can do the same now with these other 2 articles. If they're true, good. If they're false, then they can be corrected. And, the people, the locals in Montello who may be watching this video right now or at a later point, just feel free to share your thoughts on it. Do you agree with it or not? Does it represent well or is it very inaccurate? There's no harm in doing so. And then once we've finished reading through it, probably won't take that long, then we can move on to the main important observation of today to do with Dylan's boots, possible item found near the dirt mound, and comparing it to another location, okay? So let's transition on right now. The name of this website is called 247wallstreet.com. Is this the Wall Street Journal? I'm not quite sure. It's called Montello, Nevada Population and Demographics, 24/7. Okay. By Evan Coman, Samuel Stebbins. Population, race and ethnicity. Like, this isn't groundbreaking stuff, but it's just like tells a bit of a story, an understanding of the place, because, you got to understand, not everyone is from that area, so they're not going to ultimately know, right? And if people want to learn, then they can learn in a certain way, such as this as well. Some people are not even from the US, so no harm in reading it. A Montello is a census-designated place in Elko County, Nevada, with a population of 50, according to the most recent estimates from the US Census Bureau. 100% of residents identify as white, and everything else 0. What else was there? African American, American Indian, Alaska Native, Asian, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, Hispanic, Latino, and some, okay, there we go. Nationally, some 61.1% of Americans identify as white, 12.3%. Okay. Some, yeah, we don't need to go too deep into it. And then it gives like a little color-coded check of it. Is blue the one where it's to do with being white, I assume, because it says 100%. Okay. Nevada, about 50% white. Okay. US, over 60. I mean, as for the UK, I don't think that would apply there. Anyway, ancestry. Census respondents are also asked to report ancestry. Some of the most commonly reported ancestries in Montello include German, Italian, and Norwegian. Okay. Measured by location quotient, comparing the census designated place shared to the national share. Some of the most highly concentrated ancestries in census designated place are Norwegian, Italian, and German. Okay. Is that true? Feel free to leave your thoughts in the chat. We were saying Italian, I'm sure that's going to get Stoney's attention. German 40, Norwegian 20, Italian 30. Data reflects up to 10 of the most common responses given by residents for the share of the population of the Census Bureau. Okay. These are self-reported. Some respondents report a more broad ancestry than others. Age. The population of Montello is older than the United States as a whole. Okay. The median age is 72.2 years, 34.3 years more than the national median age of 37.9 years. An estimated 60% of the population is 65 years and over, compared to the 15.2% of the US population. Okay, interesting. I mean, I have heard in the past, can't remember who by now, but some were, popping in and saying that the place itself, Montello, is like a retirement place where people will go because it's quieter and stuff. Okay. Population by age. Oh, it doesn't seem to be, because there's not much data here. But let me just see this. Population by age, 5 and under, and then it gives different age ranges. 45 to 49 doesn't really exist. 50 to 54 years of age, that's filled in with blue. 70 to 74, that's mainly dominated by that, and nothing over. All I want to say is, if there aren't any people younger than that, like even like as a child, then why is there a school in Montello? Can anyone answer that? What's the point having a school in a retirement place, or just a place where there's mainly more older people? That's what I want to know. Can anyone answer that in the chat? Weezer, is that school in Montello open or is it closed? What's the point of it? Okay. No harm in asking. Move on. Family and household composition. Family and household composition also varies heavily across the United States. In Montello, 25% of households are occupied by married couples, families, compared to the 48.3% national figure. Okay, 0% of households occupied by single male householders, 0% by single female householders, and 75% by non-family occupants. Nationwide, 4.9% of households are occupied by single male householders, 12.6% by single female householders, and 34.3% by non-family occupants. An estimated 25% of heads of household own their homes, compared to the national home ownership rate of 63.8%. Okay, and there's some like little stats there. I mean, it's kind of organised fairly well and somewhat clear to read. I don't know how true it is or how up to date, because it unfortunately didn't really give a date. But, if anyone disagrees with these stats, these figures, statements, feel free to highlight it and list it down below. Language spoken. English is by far the most commonly spoken language in Nevada and across the US as a whole. Similarly, in Montello, 100% of local residents aged 5 and up speak English exclusively. or if they are multilingual, speak English very well. For context, 88.4% of the 5 and older population across Nevada only speaks English or speak it very well, and 91.5% of the same age group nationwide do. I mean, Ellenberg, Weezer, do you have any alternative languages or accents like, any like that code wording? I don't know. Marital status. Residents of Montello are less likely than a typical American to be married. Of all local residents aged 15 and older, 40% are currently married compared to 48.1% of Americans nationwide in the same age group. Across Nevada as a whole, 45.5% of residents 15 and older are married. Divorce is far less common in Montello than it is across the US as a whole. According to census estimates, 0% of residents 15 and older are divorced compared to 10.8% of the US population in the same age group. In Nevada, 14% of the 15 and older population is divorced. An estimated 0% of Montello residents 15 and older have never married compared to 1/3 of all Americans in the same age group. Okay. Kind of varies there on the screen. Quite a bit of orange. Veterans. Okay, interesting. In Montello, 20% of the 18 and older civilian population are veterans, compared to the 7.5% of adult civilians nationwide and 9.3% of the civilian population in all of Nevada. So I assume when they say veterans, they mean, like soldiers, people that have been in the army, the US Army, and different branches of it. Is that correct in saying? I do remember when looking at Montello, there was that graveyard, the cemetery, where it was like honouring people from the past, military. I think it might have been World War II, or was it World War One? I think it might have said unknown soldiers as well. So there's that to take in mind. And I guess, Okay. I mean, as for military people or ex-military, I've not really heard of like many. I know Christopher Lloyd has popped up in conversations said by people to do with military or former military, now at an Air Force base or something. Yeah. Educational attainment. In Montello, adults are more likely to have a high school education than the typical American adult, but are less likely to have a 4-year college education. Among Montello residents 25 and older, 100% have a high school diploma or equivalent, and 20% have a bachelor's degree or higher, compared to 87.7% and 31.5% of adults nationwide, respectively. Across Nevada, 86.3% of adults have graduated high school, and 24.2% have a bachelor's degree. Okay. Right, the graph is arranged in a different order this time. Less than 9th to 12th grade, high school, some college, associate's degree, bachelor's degree, graduate, or... Okay. Poverty. Serious financial hardship is more common in Montello than it is nationwide. The local poverty rate stands at 60%, whilst the national poverty rate is 14.1% across the state as a whole. 13.7% of the population lives below the poverty line. Okay. I mean, I guess as well, we're going to take in mind, I'm assuming that this article was done, before the Dylan Rounds situation, because like how Weezer said, that the bars in Montello are not doing much business at all. They're closed, so that's definitely going to have a bad knock-on effect in a way. Read more about population demographics. Published, data for all 50 states of over 29,000 cities across the country. That's a lot. Okay. So now what we'll do is just read out the second article, Cost of Living in Montello, Nevada, created by the same people. Cost of living in Montello. Montello is a census-designated place in Elko County, Nevada, population of 50. Okay. The total cost of housing, food, childcare, transportation, healthcare, taxes, and other necessities for a single adult in Montello is $38,438 a year, greater than the annual cost of living for Nevada of $33,050, and roughly in line with the national figures of $38,433. Okay. I mean, if it's to do with childcare and all of that, then and transportation, I didn't think Montello had that sort of stuff. You know, with looking at the previous article saying that there's absolutely no one of the age of a child or teenager in the area, then this is almost like contradicting it in a way. Maybe it's just talking in general, but it's talking with, or is it talking about just Nevada as a whole? No, it looks like it's talking directly about Montello. Okay. Got some stats there, well, not stats there, you got like a graph there. Okay. 100k annual salary, 80k, 60k, 40k, 20k. Okay. Using cost of living data from the non-profit think tank Economic Policy Institute. Okay. Estimated and over 29. Okay. Transportation cost in Montello, Nevada. Transportation can also be a significant component of cost of living. In Montello, 0.0% of commuters drive to work compared to 85.5% of commuters nationwide. I mean, you could probably say, well, if it's a retirement place, then people aren't really going to be driving to work when they don't work anymore. Not saying that everyone's in that situation, but you know like how it's worded, making sense of it. An estimated 50% of workers commute to jobs outside of Montello, a larger share than the 43.7% share of commuters nationwide who live in and work in different cities. The average commute in Montello is N minutes long. What's N minutes long? Nothing. Compared to the 26.6 minute average commute nationwide, taking into account the cost of gas as well as public transit and car maintenance, the EPI estimates that a single person in Montello spends $12,000 a year on transportation, more than the national average of $9,700. Okay. I mean, I guess one thing you could highlight, just generally, roughly speaking, is vehicle car maintenance. The cost of that might be significantly higher in that town, that state, compared to Nevada as a whole or other states in the US, just down to the terrain and quality of the ground, right? If you live off-road, if you're in a rural area and you got to drive down dirt paths, you go over dirt mounds, you might drive over rocks and stones, and there might be objects on the ground. It can take a toll on the vehicle you drive, right? And you might have to get it serviced, fixed more often than if you were living in a suburban or city-based place with smooth roads and not as much roughness, possibly. Yeah. Anything else to mention here? We've got the little table down below. Annual transportation cost. Single, adult, couple, family of 3, family of 4, family of 5. So it seems to cost more the bigger the family, but is that down to the vehicle itself, a family car, and then if it's a single adult, a smaller car or something, maintenance on it? Transportation, didn't hear anything about bus stations or train stations in Montello, taxis. Is there anyone who can confirm whether they exist or not? I know you got the train tracks, railroad, but that's not for transportation of people. More so it's transportation of goods and items and so on. I mean, there's train tracks near me, literally near me, as you would hear the trains in the background of some of my videos. And on the tracks, it'll be shared between goods trains, with the long trailers and stuff, but then also normal trains which carry people. Okay. Healthcare cost in Montello, Nevada. Out-of-the-pocket healthcare costs and insurance premiums, assuming at least a basic level of health insurance coverage, are far higher than they are on average national-wide in Montello, and also well above what they are across Nevada as a whole. For a single adult living in the area, average healthcare costs come out to $5,775 per year, compared to an average of $3,684 across Nevada and $4,266 nationwide. Okay. For a single adult, average healthcare costs more. Right. Could that also be because there might be more chances of injury in a certain state compared to another? Whether it be because of the dangers of living around certain people or the terrain environment itself. If you got to have more trips and visits to the hospital than other places, then that's going to increase the price, right? Just these little factors you've got to take in mind. I mean, like, even if you're in a city, that could cost more. Like, if there's like more things that can go wrong, more ways to get injured, to get killed, then that's going to play a factor too. Childcare costs in Montello. Well, this is going to be interesting considering the previous article said there was no children whatsoever. For families with children, childcare adds thousands of dollars to overall annual spending in Montello. The average annual cost of childcare for 2 children, one 4-year-old and one 8-year-old, is $14,838, about $1,100 less than the comparable average of $15,000, nearly $16,000 across all of Nevada. Meanwhile, across the US as a whole, childcare expenses for 2 children averages $15,800 per year. There's like a little graph there, as you can see. Food cost in Montello, Nevada. Now, just take in mind, as for the food-related stuff, this just randomly reminds me of that food bank or something in Montello, where Lance Kelly, at the beginning of Dylan's disappearance, he was volunteering there, and so was Justin Rounds, and that's how they started getting talking and learning about each other, introducing. There's a food bank for the people in Montello. It says, food is another everyday expense that has a significant impact on overall cost of living. Data from the US Department of Agriculture shows that the cost of food varies from city to city, town to town. In Montello, a single adult spends on average of $3,300 on food annually, and a family of 4 spends $9,700 on average. For context, the average annual food expenditure across Nevada and the US, respectively, are $3,200 and $3,240 for a single adult, and $9,300 and $9,354 for a family of 4. These estimates are calculated for a nutritionally adequate diet of food purchased at a grocery store for at-home preparation. I mean, when it comes to Ellenberg, my God, don't even have to worry about Ellenberg, whether you can buy food or not. She's already bringing it out left, right, and center. She's got food stuffed in her pockets left, right, and center. Fucking the rats, the mice. She gets the little doggies out there on a walk, fetching all the rats to cook. Oh my God, endless supply. Ellenberg has it all under control. Wouldn't even be surprised if Ellenberg has a secret bunker somewhere stuffed full of rats. Oh God, pest control. Anyway, let's just move on. There's a little graph there. Okay. Taxes in Montello, Nevada. Few expenses vary as much from city to city and town to town as taxes, according for state and federal income taxes, as well as Social Security contributions and Medicare payroll taxes. The average adult working in Montello, Nevada pays $5,700 annually, a relatively high sum compared to the statewide average of $4,692. There you go, there's taxes. I mean, as for like general cost of things, maybe significantly higher there in Montello. I mean, it also applies to people visiting the place. We saw on the Google reviews that such as the price of gas was significantly higher there compared to other places and other towns, because it's just down to the scarceness, I don't know how you say it, of resources, the distance from place to place. If you're out there on the drive, going on a hike or somewhere, a long distance ride, and you visit Montello and you need gas, you just have to pay the high price, because where else can you go? Can you risk going on further? Probably not, because of the distance between these different gas stations. And Google Map reviews, there's a couple of people speaking negatively about it, saying it costs too much, and sometimes it was shut when it should be open. So a little bit messy here and there. And as well, if the bar or bars in Montello, Nevada are shut and have been shut for some time, does that have a negative impact on maybe the cost of other resources or services in the area? Yes, no? Feel free to list your thoughts. Says it is important to note that these calculations do not include the other common taxes such as property, sales, and excise taxes. Accounting for these taxes whilst excluding taxes levied at the federal level, Montello residents live in a state with a modest average tax burden. Per capita state tax collections in the Nevada total $3,000 per year compared to the $3,151 across all states on average. Methodology, okay. To estimate the costs of housing, food, transportation, healthcare, childcare taxes and other necessities, assigned county level. Okay. That just gives like how they've worked it out, okay. Is that it? Okay. So just, leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. Do you agree with this data, these graphs, statements? Is it entirely true or not? Does it fail to take into account the people that might be squatting in the area, living on the outer skirts of Montello, who have not registered for this or that and not been accounted for statistically? Could that be a possibility? I feel like it could, both for like the age of individuals, some not being included here because they've not been recorded, and maybe to do money related stuff too. Let me know your thoughts, man. I think now we can actually transition on to the main talking point of this video, hence the title. Let's transition on over now and make sense of it. So the way I'm going to do this is just briefly introduce to you or reintroduce to you, in case you've forgotten or you didn't know to begin with, the situation with Dylan, the boots, possible boots, bought, etc., clothing bought, certain timeline date, how it can lead to this and that, a finding of the dirt mound and compare and contrasting. It seems a bit muddled at this moment, but it can be put into a certain format and can understand. So basically, 24th of May, Dylan supposedly went down to Burley, Idaho in his normal pickup truck, as previously on the 19th of May 2022, Dylan used his grain truck to get somewhere to buy seed. Okay? Two different events, supposedly. Okay? And if we're talking more about the 24th, that's the day to do with Dylan supposedly going to Cal Ranch in Burley, Idaho to buy some clothing. Who knows what he bought? Could have been a new jacket, a top, trousers, new boots, if the other ones were on the way out. You never know. Possibility as well that if that all did happen, that the clothing bought could be what Dylan was wearing when he went missing, right? Maybe to try on these new clothes, to switch out from his previous. That's another key detail to look out for. And yet the missing person posters, majority of them do not include clothing description, which is an important factor to do with spotting someone out in terms of appearance, okay? So with that in mind, how does this tie with footage by a person going out there post Dylan's disappearance? Well, don't know how many months ago it is now. Fair few months, maybe about 4 months or longer ago, Dylan, as well as Salty Pancakes, as well as Kurt Wadsworth, and some other people went down to the grain shed of Lucin, okay, that property, searching about, looking for clues, getting an idea of things. And whilst out there, Dylan went to the dirt mound and just walked around it and documented it. It was interesting to see up close in person, considering not really anyone else has done that with decent video quality as well. Video quality is a big factor. The more, the better the quality, the more you can see. And if you can see more, you might find out one piece of interesting bit of evidence or item. Now, you could be under the assumption that, okay, police have been there, family have been there. I'm sure they would know, they've investigated, they've checked the area. They're going to know what's been searched, what hasn't. If there's anything very interesting, it's been taken away and taken to the labs, DNA testing at some point. But there's always a possibility that things can be missed, left behind. You never know, right? and that's what the possible case is. Because recently when we did the dirt mound analysis and I had a look at the ground, we noticed the cans that were squashed in the ground, some of the bits and bobs half buried, trying to make sense of it, but nothing too out of the ordinary, no bones or anything dodgy like that, the odd bucket. But then there was like a red box which was stuck out of the ground. And I didn't think too much of it at the time, but then fast forward to when I did that small timeline analysis of the 24th of May and Dylan going to Cal Ranch store in Burley, Idaho, looking down one of the aisles of the boxes of clothing, I noticed a bit of a link, okay? That's where it came from. This is how it originated. And in that video, in the live chat, I said, would you want me to do a side-by-side comparison to, try and put it into perspective? And majority of people said yes. So that's exactly what we're doing right now, okay? Just wanted to tell you that story so you're up to scratch on things. And, we'll do like a before and after photo, kinda, and then a side-by-side. And I did try and enhance the image as well, so it might be a bit easier to view, and just see if we can start any discussions from this, whether it can be reinforced, strengthened, or just simply debunked and solved. Whichever way, it's a win-win, right? Let's move on to the photos right now. Okay, here we are. We just got like a little default photo here, just a part of the album. I'll just highlight one thing to you in case you're wondering, right? I do have a couple of photos to do with the Dylan Rounds case, ones you've already seen before, of maybe a certain location, a post from Facebook, etc. I just keep a hold on to them just to use as maybe thumbnails, backgrounds, or to just like reiterate, to link, compare and contrast back to. I did the same with the Kenny Veach case with a certain photo of the M cave, or the supposed covered M cave, or the keyhole, or a photo of Kenny, the photo of a mine shaft, before and after timelines, right? It was a bit easier back then though, because if it was a dedicated video to an area before and after, the thumbnail basically was of that material, so I could just re-download it afterwards if I needed to. But with the Dylan Rounds case, because it's a deep discussion and it's kind of vast and wide, it gets a little bit hard to refer back to points here and there at times, But that being said, here's the photo of the dirt mound. On the left-hand side, you see the mound. On the right, it kind of just like dips in like a small crater. And just before that, in front, you see the trash dumped there, most likely by Brenner, you'd assume. And it's that red little thing at the bottom of the screen. Now, I don't want to zoom in too much because it might mess it up as well. You see that little red box down there? It was Tom Evans that said he's never noticed it before. He's seen all the other stuff, but not that one thing. I'll just add in with one other note. That's the thing. You can look at footage, okay? People will see stuff, but won't see other things. The people that see the other things won't see the original stuff the other person was looking at, right? So if you put everyone together, combine them with their perceptions and views, you can complete the almost puzzle as a whole when looking at stuff. I'd say maybe with the Kenny Veach case, there was more footage to review rather than the Dylan Rounds case. That's what I'd say personally. But yeah, and then this was the Cal Ranch store, one of the aisle sections to do with clothing, footwear, as you see the boots on the side. And we can refer to that shortly. And then this is a side-by-side comparison, okay? So what you see on the left-hand side is one of the aisles, the same one as that. And then on the right-hand side of this photo, what you see in the ground is that red box, super enhanced, which is of, let me just zoom in, down there, okay? Just so you know what we're exactly looking at. And, the ground itself looks a bit patchy, first of all, but that could be animal prints, a little bit of soil turned up, a little bit of vegetation flattened, the odd can. But it's that red box, trying to understand it now, the shape and the size of it. Is it the correct width, correct height for a pair of a shoebox? Or could it just more be like a beer casing, a beer box, a can, a box of cans possibly, because it's near a set of cans? Like, like how you can associate one item with another because of where it's found? So if you find a box and it's located near rubbish, then basically it's all rubbish. It's all been thrown away and the box is likely empty. And in this case, with the box being near to a load of cans, as you can see, beer cans. Then you could think maybe that box contained that alcohol, possibly. But, you know, Dylan's boots were also found at the dirt mound, right? And if you got a potential shoebox in this area, the shoebox was thrown away, but the boots were as well. That wouldn't make sense, though. If new shoes were bought from Cal Ranch store and Dylan chucked off his old pair, maybe not at the mound, just left at the grain shed, and because Brenner thought, oh, these are not in use anymore, he just took him himself, maybe to use, possibly, or maybe for other reasons. And then he thought, do you know what, I've got no interest in them, I'll just chuck them behind the dirt mound, and then thought nothing of it. Okay? So Dylan could well be still wearing some form of boots, right? But his newer pair. Like, really, the only way you could really reinforce it would be, as I said, you look at the transactions that were made, not the last transaction made, but the second to last transaction made, or the third to last transaction made, such as 24th. Did he ultimately go to Cal Ranch store? Did he ultimately buy clothing? And what piece of clothing was it? If it was boots, then it would strengthen and reinforce that the boots found at the dirt mound were worn by Dylan, kind of recent, but taken off. And the next pair of shoes he wore were the shoes which resulted in his death. You get what I'm saying? So that's one way of looking at it. And as I said, I tried enhancing the image to try and make it a bit clearer to see the box, right? Side-by-side comparison. You look at the boxes on the left-hand side. Left-hand side there, more cowboy boots, and the boxes are bluish and white, as you can see. And some of them are yellow with black stripes. On the right-hand side, we've got some yellow and black boxes, colour-toned, two-way colours. And then further down, that's where the red boxes show up. It's red and black. Now, I guess what you got to understand is, it's not the only and exclusive coloured boxes that are present here. There'll be other coloured shoe boxes most likely, and if there's other aisles as well, then they could be present. And as well, if they've updated their range, their stock, so could the shoe boxes change in colour and style too, right? But in terms of the overall shape of it, and roughly the colours speaking of, is it the same box? I can't quite come to a conclusion, but we can at least talk about it. You look at that box, is it more lengthways? It's definitely buried, mostly buried, most part of it. Is it empty? Well, you would assume so. I'd assume so. Though, if it was like a cardboard box, yeah, that's the thing we've got to acknowledge. If it was a shoe box, there tend to be cardboard boxes, right? And if it has rained, like supposedly how it did Saturday morning and then even Sunday, and then from then till now, which is many months on, it would have rained here and there in between, right? And with the snow as well and that melting, if it was cardboard box, it would have, would have perished, broken down. But hey, this is the thing. As for like the winter aspect, this photo at least was taken before winter, much earlier again, right? I can't remember exactly. It'd be like several months ago, right? Kind of like in the early stages of Dylan's disappearance, mid stage. The odd bit of rain here and there. Would it have broken down a cardboard box? Depends how much rain, right? The structuring of it. And with it being in a ditch, probably would have filled up with water and held for a certain amount of time, making the box wet, soggy, broken down. Does the box to you look like it's made out of cardboard paper? Does it look more heavy duty? What's your thoughts on that? It's red and white. The rim, the edge of it is white, red in the middle, and then there seems to be like a white logo possibly, but I can't make it out. You see, it's pixelated. Not much can be done about it. unless someone actually went back there and took a photo of it up close. It looks chunky enough, though, to be a shoebox. It just depends on the length of it, right? Is that box sideways or has it been rotated? Just in terms of the ratio and size of the boxes which you see on screen here, the boxes here are quite long but not wide from the looks of it. Yeah, and then those red boxes further down. You got the boots here, as you can see. I'm not saying they're Dylan's, but you got like just some example photos, right? And from what Tom Evans said, the brand of Dylan's shoes are available at Cal Ranch store. Now, correct me if I'm wrong in saying that, but if that is the case, then that could be a go-to place Dylan would go to, right? With it being in Idaho, with it being where family are nearby, and with it also being like in the area where you might get seed. It's like an all-in-one. Not that you would go in one day to get all that stuff, but when you get these areas where there's a lot of things that can benefit you, you're probably more likely to just focus on that spot and go to from time to time. So Dylan might have bought new clothing. I mean, it would actually make sense in a way. Like, let's just talk it through. Dylan finished his custom farming under Dan Iverson, and he returned back to his own farm, Dylan. Do we know the exact time, date? No, that's not been talked about or confirmed yet. But, you know, after doing custom farming, you've got paid, you received a check. Okay, the check goes into the bank, but could any of that money have been spent buying new clothes? Maybe, because like, if you've done some hard work, right, maybe to treat yourself, and if not that, just to replenish your own stock, your own resources, you know, technically you need clothes to work, okay, to go out and work, wearing clothes for protection and also decency, so you don't get done by anyone. And if Dylan's been working away, he's got dusty, he's got covered in muck, may have had a hole in the shoes have worn down, the sole, the grip, whatever it may be, right? You just buy some new clothes after that, so then you can carry on with the farming and other hard labour down the line, right? It's like a normal thing. Canny's Cooley said Dylan would be covered in dust and mud after a job, after farm work, so it wasn't out of the ordinary. Okay. And clothing can be worn down as well in the process, depending on what you get up to. So it kind of ties in line with one another. Coming back, returning back, replenishing this, getting the seed for that, getting the clothing for that maybe. But then he couldn't proceed anymore because he was denied by Brenner from the looks of it. Do any of you think that the red box on the right is related to Cal Ranch store? If not, do you just think it's a shoebox, or do you feel it is maybe a beer box? Okay. If it is a beer box, then most likely it's to do with Brenner. That's the way I see it. But even if it's a beer box, they tend to be kind of lightweight, right? Paper, cardboard, or something like that. It's not wood, it's not metal, it's not steel. They wouldn't be using resources on that. So why did it not break down? That's all I want to know. I mean, if it only rained a little bit and then it was really dry, it could have been dried out, right, and remained. Ultimately, you'd have to say, is it still there now, and what condition is it in? And is it empty, yes or no? Does it have a flap? You know, like shoe boxes have a flap, right? As for beer boxes, casings, they don't really have like a door or a hinge. They're just like, just hold it together, really. You see, it's on top how it comes off. But then again, shoe boxes don't have a hinge. Well, some might, but majority don't. They just pop off, just like a phone box. If you bought a new phone, how it slides off, right? But yeah, it's just a small observation. And it's the thing, people will say, so what? Does it really matter? Yes, it does. Okay, it doesn't change the fact that Dylan is missing. It doesn't suddenly bring him home. It doesn't suddenly bring justice. But what it does, it makes you question certain things. And it might debunk previous talking points, previous maybe facts, I don't know. Like, what it ultimately does, it changes the order, the style, the method of like how things played out between Dylan and Alexa Brenner, or anyone else that may have been present or came along, right? Like, if it ruled out that Dylan's boots were actually old boots, or kind of old boots, and that Dylan was wearing newer ones, then that could explain to why Brenner moved them. Just by that action alone, it doesn't mean to say Brenner is guilty, but it indirectly links him to Dylan's disappearance, though if there is additional evidence elsewhere with Brenner's DNA associated with Dylan, literally Dylan's body, then yeah, that would incriminate him 100%, I would say. Guess it's just the timing if it really was the case. Like, the way it was worded in the past by some people, and we actually saw it on the forum page, which we looked at in the past when they were talking about the boots, and also viewers on YouTube briefly touched upon it in the past as well on the platform. He was saying that they were Dylan's old boots. He left them out there, and then he was wearing newer ones. But there was no like talk on, but when did it occur? When did Dylan take the boots off and then put new ones on? Was it the day he went missing? Was it before? Was it much earlier before that? Who knows? That's what it was kind of like. Past interview, might have been East Idaho News. Candice Cooley was talking about the boot situation. How Brenner said to her that Brenner hadn't seen Dylan for over a month. Didn't think he was coming back. Brenner found the boots just outside of the grain shed, so he picked them up, put them near his trailer, picked them up again, and chucked them at the dirt mound. Is that believable? Well, most likely it did happen. Was it for that exact reason? Questionable. And why? How can it even be confirmed? Well, because it's been said that prints, DNA, have been found of Brenner on Dylan's boots. So Brenner did pick them up and move them about. Like, okay, what I want to talk about is, if that's how it was truly worded by Brenner, not seen Dylan for over a month, then you would assume that Dylan took off his original boots before he went off to do custom farming for Dan Iverson. So did Dylan prepare himself early by putting on newer boots, buying new boots, to then go on to do custom farming? Because his older ones were wearing away and he just left them near the grain shed, just like how he would leave food out on the side, on the countertop in his trailer. He gets distracted, sidetracked by other stuff, right? That could explain that. Is there any counterpoints? The only counterpoint is Candice Cooley said the boots that were left out there found near the dirt mound were fresh. How they appeared, how they looked. They weren't faded. They've not been out in the sun that long, so it would be a smaller, closer timescale to when he went missing. I mean, is that 100% true? Does Candice Cooley really know that about the boots being fresh, or is that just what she thinks? I want to know your thoughts in the chat, okay? If that ultimately, though, is the case, then it would make me think that it's got more to do with Dylan possibly taking off his boots, older pair, leaving them outside near the grain shed, and then on the 24th of May going down to Cal Ranch store, Burley, Idaho, to buy his boots and then carry on doing other stuff. And in between, Brenner, although lying about not seeing Dylan for over a month, may have saw the boots and thought, right, well, I'm going to take them anyway. That's another way around it, right? It's either short-term or long-term when the boots may have appeared there, right? Really, only Dylan would ultimately know, but we don't have Dylan to question. So the only other thing you'd have is receipts of Dylan from the past, such as the 24th, if not earlier before that, before he did the custom farming for Dan Iverson. And then even that CCTV footage of Burley, Idaho, stores there. Did Dylan go inside any of them? That would reinforce that as well. But that's not really been talked about. Yeah, okay, it's one of those things where, okay, police or FBI supposedly know everything, they've got it all in place, But obviously for the outsider who doesn't know, who will not know until it's, actually time, you're left guessing in between, right? Just trying to make sense of things. You're not forced to, you don't have to, but people want to, right? And as long as it doesn't cause any trouble, then there's no harm. If the real people have got things in place, that's all that matters. But at times, people can miss out things. Some important stuff has not been covered. It could be happening here as well. You never know, right? So, I said, just leave your thoughts to what you think. Can we zoom in on any of the brands? That says Scrusher. Okay. It's a little bit unclear, unfortunately. Yeah, can't quite read it. That's a shame. But if there's any brands of shoes here, boots you know of, you've seen, are there any ones here which are to do with Dylan? Feel free to point it out if you actually see them yourself as well. Further down that way, that's more the women's clothing. You see the pink tops further down at the bottom. I don't know how many aisles there are of shoe wear. There's only limited photos on Google Earth, unfortunately. Just wish I could make more sense of that, to be honest. I think someone made a joke when we were looking at this last time when zoomed in. It looked like Mars landing on planet Mars, searching about. When you look at the ground, the craters and the colouring of it, which is true. It is, yeah. As well, when I was enhancing the image, I wanted to make sure it wasn't too affected negatively, like the colours. You want that to remain true to itself, the tone. We'll just try and sharpen it up. There's only so much you can do with editing it. I mean, it's fairly buried into the ground, that object, so it's kind of covered by some of the weather, though the ground itself will absorb the liquid, the water, so it could break down. But yeah, there's not really much more I can say. I just wanted to point this out and do a dedicated video about it, and also do a side-by-side comparison so you get a better idea of things. So yeah, I guess if I didn't quite word it properly how I did before, it's that if certain orders of events, how they played out, turn out not to be entirely true, it kind of changes the format and style of how they begun, or how it evolved, okay, with Dylan's disappearance, what led to what and how it was formed. Whether this was definitely tied in with Dylan's disappearance or not, completely irrelevant, though, with being in proximity and caused by someone who's responsible for Dylan's disappearance, you could all associate together when it's not. But it's not the end of the world, okay? So just leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. Give your opinions and ideas to what you've seen. Was it of interest? Did you learn something you've not seen before? And as well, of course, if you didn't already, or if you joined in late to this video, it's a bit late now saying it, but feel free to rewind to the beginning. As for the stats and figures, what we looked at earlier, were they somewhat accurate or false? Feel free to correct it down below if you want to, only if you want to. And yeah, I guess we'll just see where we're at or what happens next. Don't think I talked about it much in the last video. I probably only left it as a comment in the live chat because it just came to my mind last minute. But Candice Cooley supposedly was going to do an update interview with No Thanks, yet another one, back to back almost. That was like 2 days ago or so, but it never happened because Candice Cooley was supposedly ill, okay? I don't know if it's entirely true, but that's from what Tom Evans said, passing it on from what Doug said from No Thanks. Now, not the first time something like this has happened. In the past, we were supposed to do an interview here and there, but Candice Cooley pulled out because she was ill. Not much oddness there. If you're ill, and it can happen, right? Whether it's caused by something to do with Dylan's disappearance, the stress and all that, and other issues it could cause, or just a simple illness which has just happened out of nowhere. But Candice Cooley seems okay from the looks of it, at least from the Find Dylan Round's Facebook page. Guess see what happens. I saw that Doug had a post or something on his community tab saying he almost felt like crying or something. It was like photos of his ceiling with holes in, or damp, a leak maybe. I think it had something to do with that. His ceiling was leaking and he had like these trash cans collecting all the water on the ground. So that's kind of messy. Once again, I didn't watch at the time, but I saw another live stream video by Doug, but it was of him watching one of his old live streams. I don't quite understand that. What is the purpose of that? Is it like a react channels where you react to a funny video or something, but you're doing that with the case looking back? Maybe, because I guess some people have done it with the news reports, doing a live stream of looking back at news reports or current ones. That could be the case, and then just like updating points or reflecting back on what you said then compared to what you say now. Possibility. But yeah, I don't know what this interview is or update is with Candice Cooley. Will it be anything great, significant? Don't know. But from the looks of it and the way things have changed, the style, is that the East Idaho News Channel interview, which is more formal, more official, yielded less information coming out of Candice Cooley than the likes of No Thanks channel live stream interview with Candice Cooley in recent times, such as talking about the pond, the phone and stuff like that, right? So that's interesting. Maybe there's a possibility that the next time there's an interview on Doug's channel, it might reveal more. Time will tell, of course. All I would say is these small back-to-back interviews are a good thing. It's causing a bit more noise again. You know, it's allowing people to listen in and see where things are at, right? Doug did say, and Candice Cooley, I think, agreed as well, that they do these like live streams in between at times, impromptu ones, not really planned, more on the spot, because they need to address an important issue within the case. Accusations, false claims, misinformation, so they've got to do a response to it and clear it up. Could that be the same again with this upcoming interview, whenever it is? Don't know. But I didn't see on the Find Dylan Rounds Facebook page in recent time anything to do about this interview coming up, because sometimes they advertise it in advance, whether it be Doug himself or Candice Cooley. That didn't seem to happen. I think there's only like one time where Doug advertised it, and that was recent when it was to do with that. I think it was a 5-hour live stream to do Candice Cooley, Doug, kind of on and off about the Dylan Rounds topic. But like Tom Evans said, he like watched through it and it was pointless, which is kind of unfortunate. Do you get what I mean? It's kind of like as for gaining knowledge about a case, it's like a high risk, high reward. You got a video that's 6 hours long. You spend all that time watching it in hopes of learning something new, something relevant. And if you do, that's good. If you don't, you've wasted 6 hours. Just seems a bit, messy. I mean, my videos are long, fairly long, but not as long as other people, right? And as well, shorter videos can be done, which I think I've still yet to do a shorter video. I keep saying they're going to come and then they end up not happening, because I end up bulking some video ideas with other ideas. That's only because like it could be only 5-10 minutes long, and it's like, well, that's not much of a live premiere, right? You want the live premiere to be of a reasonable length, so it gives time for people to react and watch and chat along. If it's too short, that's not going to happen, right? Kind of like what we see with those little whip videos. You remember these recent whip videos, left, right, and centre? Not many people watch them, but that's only because of the topic, what it's about. Completely irrelevant, the timing as well of the premiere. But still, it's still good of people to watch them when they can, considering different time zone and everything. I know it's very messy, but it's just good though. I guess the only positive I can say, and I might have said it once or twice in the past, that in a way, due to the time zone difference with the US, there's not as much toxic competitiveness going on, like between other channels when they do their live streams, right? So that's a positive in its way, in itself. I guess that's the only positive to acknowledge between these different countries. Yeah. So I think we'll leave it there ultimately for now. We'll see what we cover next, if there's any impromptu videos, any new ideas on the spot generated from this video or not. I've got the odd few bullet point videos to look at, okay? And then take things from there. If there's any updates, breaking news in between to do with this case or another one, like Kenny Veach, then I'll put that first, okay? So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time. Goodbye and good night for now.